A man with a flashlight entered a gate at the Islamic Center of Bloomington about 1:15 a.m. Monday, bent on destruction.
Members of the Bloomington Islamic Center say he trashed their playground equipment, smashed this HVAC unit, used a metal beam to take out a security camera, and destroyed several sections of their metal fence.
It sickens me to know that someone thinks so poorly of Muslims and would vandalize a faith community like this. It's just really disturbing. I do not think it was an accident that the Islamic Center was targeted. None of the other surrounding cars or buildings were targeted.
Aku says it's not the first time the center has been vandalized, and every time it's disturbing.
The mosque is it's a different type of place of worship in terms of a temple or a church. The way our prayer area looks is very different.
Shahaab, very interesting type of character. Mashallah, very active brother amongst the MSU. Has done a good job, I think, with a lot of the things that he's done, and he's stayed on for about I believe 2 years now with the MSU. And although his positions have shifted, he remains to continue to be active. And he, as a person, whenever any incidents happen with campus, generally is one of the foremost people that are representative of these incidents.
In high school, I was a senior in high school when 9/11 happened, and I just saw the reaction of so many people, and I saw how negative it was. And towards me, myself, I was affected by various events, and so I felt as though these were my friends, but they had no idea who I was. I knew them, but they didn't know who I was, and that hurt me, because I had been with them this whole time, and then all of a sudden something happened and they would decide to alienate me. So that was the beginning, I feel, of where I decided, we need to make this greater outreach. There has to be understanding. And if we're going to be part of this society, people need to understand us. So we need to educate non-Muslims and everyone. So that was one reason I entered it. Also, in the college campus, this is a forum where people are willing to learn. They're here to learn. So it's an easy opportunity to talk to people and stop people and just let them know about what you're trying to do.
Putting Muslims together, they will benefit a lot from just being around each other, since there isn't that many Muslims around campus. And one of the activities that we usually do is on Fridays we go and play basketball. And he's pretty much the main focus, because he tries to get everybody, ask us questions like, are you going to come play basketball? Stuff like that. I've received emails from him about discussions, Islamic discussions and activities like that. I know he's a big part in the MSU and MSA, because he helps a lot with it. I've seen him making flyers at the library.
The man spent about 45 minutes here tearing things up and dumping trash, but he didn't leave any messages as to the reason why he made such a costly mess.
He lifted it up and threw this, and this bench is also bent. I mean, the amount of force that it would take to accomplish that, I just can't even imagine how someone would have that much rage in them.
Could you tell us when you heard of, how do you came to learn about this attack? What went through your mind?
It was really depressing, to be honest with you, as I have such fond memories of that time and that place, and that so much good has come from there. If you think about Bloomington, it's a place where international students and local students, domestic students come there. We're all away from our respective homes, so to speak. To build community in a place far from home is not easy. And that mosque was pivotal in establishing that bond amongst our community. And to hear that it was attacked again, almost 20 years later, when you've done your best work, and almost 20 years from 9/11, it shows what's going on.
Every time something like this happens, it makes people afraid. There have been times where, for months, I really questioned whether it was a good idea to come to the building.
2005, when this first occurred, Unfortunately, this was post 9/11. We had already seen a rise in hate crimes in Bloomington all over campus, people being harassed. There were some hate mongers who were coming to campus, putting up signs that were anti-Islamic, Islamaphobic in nature. And so when I did hear about this mosque bombing or attack at that time, I was shocked to hear that it had happened, but I saw the seeds of it slowly developing at that time. So I was very disheartened and depressed, considering we were always an outreach organization open to everybody to come visit us. It kind of doubled down our efforts that we have to do more. And this was kind of a symptom of the society and times we were living in at that time. So it definitely was shocking and depressing, but it was a slow moving train wreck, that some people weren't too shocked, but it was still because it's a place you go every single day. You hang out with your friends. It's more than just a prayer hall. It's a community center. You meet your friends there. It was still very disheartening to hear.
So yes, there were many Muslims there. There were different students. Why did you take action?
I mean, being as though I was born and raised in the United States, I think a lot of students felt scared to speak up. Being a student of history, seeing Malcolm X, always speak truth to power. This was our time to kind of speak up and defend our faith. And truthfully, there's nothing to hide. Muslims come from all different backgrounds, whether it's China, India, Saudi Arabia, Tanzania, Europe, United States, indigenous Muslims. There was nothing for us to hide. So it didn't scare me. Living in the United States my whole life, I felt that I had to speak up for the truth. We have all these icons like Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, who are forerunners and bringing the idea of Islam to America. So it was just a matter of educating our people.
One of the event was actually the writing of the Shahada on the pavement.
Hmm.
Right? Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
Could you say a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So what had happened was during that time, there was a hate crime essentially that took place where people took the testament of faith, the La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, and put it on the pavement all around campus. So where all the entries to the door were around and the exits and different places throughout the Bloomington area, they had put this calligraphy on the ground. So essentially you would step on it. And it was a very, almost like a well thought out hate crime because everyone knows, a lot of people who are familiar with Islamic tradition, we try to respect our holy words. This person had known that, taken it out of context and put it in different places so people are essentially disrespecting it by putting their feet on it, which is something that Muslims find disrespectful.
After the firebombing, it really put our mosque in the limelight of the community and also national attention. So just so our neighbors could get to know us better, also the greater Bloomington community, we had an open house. So what we did is we had non-Muslims come to the mosque and we gave them a tour of the prayer area, the kitchen, all our facilities, and then just briefly talked to them about Islam.
So as a president of MSU, in collaboration with the mosque, you initiated a number of events to educate the public about Islam. Can you talk about, I think one of the event was open masjid?
Yeah, we had an open house at the masjid. Pretty much we invited all of our neighbors to the mosque to come see what's actually going on in here. To get rid of that suspicion. What do they do in there on Fridays? What are they doing every day congregating there? If you live in the neighborhood, you see people coming in and out. It's a very unique place, the mosque. So I wanted to make sure that our neighbors and anyone in Bloomington did not have that feeling of suspicion or to let rumors run wild, like, they're doing something in there, they're planning something. Whereas it's an open door policy, anyone can come there with the right understanding and attire, just to be respectful of the space. So that was one thing we did. There's a national fastathon, which is pretty much we invite as many people as possible to take part in the holy fast during the month of Ramadan of fasting. And we break fast with them. All the proceeds went to a local charity. That's something we're heavily involved in. We held multiple kind of Islam Awareness Week or month, which was tailored towards non-Muslims getting a better understanding of Islam. And during that week, we would invite other interfaith leaders to talk about their perspective on religion and their respective religions, and also to present what Islam is.
So definitely we are seeing a kind of an exponential growth in Islamophobia, discrimination, and identity politics globally. If you would reflect back then and now, do you think Muslims have at least have better image and allies out there who could take this news and say, this is what is happening to Muslims, this is wrong? We understand that the forces of Islamophobia are also on kind of on rampage, right? But do we also see more allies also, or the situation is not that so?
I think we do have allies, and we've seen that with other marginalized minorities within the United States. Like the Muslims of America were heavily supporting the BLM movement. And it's something that you heard in Friday khutbahs throughout the country. Myself included, I was at a lot of Black Lives Matter movements, not because they were directly supporting Islam, anti-Islamic sentiments, but we as a society here, we understand what it means to be marginalized. That's at a grassroots level. At the top of the political structure, whether it's the Democrats, the Republican, there's a lot of sloganeering. America has a lot of freedom of religion, and we allow everybody to practice their faith. That's true. But sometimes the policies that trickle down from these people on the left or the right, despite those slogans, don't necessarily match up to creating environments where there aren't these attacks happening, or they're not taking it to the same level of importance as I would hope for to create a more equitable and fair society.
It has been a long time since the MSU days. What kind of work are you doing to mitigate, and to educate the public about Muslims and fighting the spread of Islamophobia?
I'll say something that's related and unrelated. Jalaluddin Rumi has a quote, when I was young, I thought I could change the world. When I was older, I could only change myself. I think that's one of his sayings. I'm still deeply involved with my community locally. I live here in the suburbs of Chicago. I'm involved with my mosque. I'm involved with different organizations here in my area. I think knowing that we are 1% of the population, less than 1% of the population of the United States, but we get a lot of media attention. You would think we were like 25% of the population. But I'm very intentional that when I meet somebody, they know that I am a Muslim. And working as a physician here, it's sometimes hard because you have the doctor-patient relationship. But whether it's the nursing staff or anybody that I interact with, my neighbors especially, I make such a big point and emphasis to let them know who I really am. So I think that's one of the best things we can do, being such a small population, that whoever we touch, whoever we talk to, leaving a little bit of that fragrance of Islam, fragrance of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam with them, to know that what they're hearing on the news is not true. If you still look at the number of people that actually know a Muslim in the United States, it's still a small percent. So we have a huge responsibility living here in the West to educate those around us.
You have an advantage of seeing two very two very kind of paradigmatic moments that unleashed discrimination, Islamophobia. I mean, you have seen it, right?
Yeah.
And of course, MSUs are still active, and I wonder, because of your involvement and seeing these two political moments and their repercussions on Muslims' life, could you offer some insights?
Yeah, I think absolutely. Number one, we must remain optimistic that change is coming, and we have seen some opportunities. There are more and more people that speak to the political realities that are going on. There are some movements, the progressive movement and other movements, that know that these dog whistles to identity politics are nothing more than an attempt to rally racist, xenophobic, Islamaphobic, racist ideologies. And we need to work with our allies to bring unity. Being such a small group in the United States, we must work with our allies and do that. Number two, we have to stand tall and meet the challenges of our time. These are not the worst times that that Muslims have faced. You can look globally, and we have to do what we can within our reach, because things could get worse if we do not take action. So it's very important that we're involved with the political process and at the grassroots level.